And joining us now, criminal defense attorney Joshua Ritter, host of the True Crime Daily Sidebar podcast. Thank you so much for being here. How will Alan's attorneys explain these alleged confessions, do you believe, to a jury?
Hi, Kelly. I don't know that they can. Probably some of the strongest evidence that can be presented in court is words from the defendant's own mouth. That is what the juries are going to pay attention to more than anything else. You can present forensic evidence, you can present eyewitness evidence, surveillance video, and I think that they have elements of all of that in this case. But all of that becomes window dressing if they're going to hear from the defendant's own mouth that he's confessing to these murders. I don't know if there is an argument to get around all of that. I know that they're starting to at least percolate those arguments as far as, he was under some sort of mental distress. But if those recordings come in or otherwise through testimony that he confessed to these murders, it's essentially game over for the defense. It's devastating.
Do you think Alan will testify in his defense?
I don't think that he should. I think that he's already given statements to investigators that there's a lot of evidence connecting him to these crimes that he's going to have to be able to explain. He would essentially have to pull off a remarkable feat to be able to get on this stand under, brutal cross-examination and explain all of these elements that link him to the crime, and now a confession to his own wife and others that he did commit these murders and somehow have something to explain to jurors. I just don't see it being an advantage to him. But of all the decisions that can be made, the decision whether or not to testify lies completely with the defendant himself.
All right. And the defense, as you know, wants the judge to throw out evidence seized at Alan's house last October, including more than a dozen hunting and utility knives. What do you think the judge will decide, and could the ruling have a major impact on the case?
I think the defense is going to argue that, listen, this is about a murder, that you may believe that you have a murder weapon and other evidence linked to that might be important. But all of this other stuff that was seized, all these other knives, those do nothing to move the ball forward. So they're just essentially prejudicing their client. And that's the argument they're going to make, that there's no probative value in this, that it's far more prejudicial. I could see a judge going either way, but to answer your question, I don't think it will have a huge impact on the case, whether or not other knives or weapons were found inside of that home, when we're talking about other elements and other pieces of evidence that actually link him to that crime.
Okay, we'd also love to get your take on this story. There's a new effort to find the body of Kristin Smart nearly 30 years after she vanished. Her remains never found, so engineers tested soil vapor samples from the backyard where the killer's mother lives, and they determined there either is or was a decomposing body there. One of the scientists involved actually met Kristin Smart 1 week before she went missing, and he's followed the case ever since and wants to help bring closure to the family. So her killer, Paul Flores, has already been convicted. So this new effort really isn't about solving the case per se, but do you think this kind of testing should be used in other cold cases?
Absolutely. And you highlight the reason it should be used is in cold cases, because one of the difficulties that they had in this case, and it was remarkable they were able to get past it, is this was considered what we call a no-body case, which is one of the more difficult types of murder cases to prosecute, because you don't have the advantage of it in an autopsy to actually explain to jurors how the crime was committed, how the murder took place. So any advancement in science that could possibly lead to the discovery of remains is going to be helpful in prosecuting and bringing to justice these types of cold cases.
All right, Josh Ritter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.